Okay, so the next thing I would do at this point is the program's starting to get a little bit longer. I mean, it's not that long. What are we up to? 60 lines. From a logical perspective, I would just start to move this code into a class because it makes more logical sense. And if I keep going the way that we're going, then my main function is just going to get longer and longer and longer. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to create a class that's going to handle the screen information, and then we'll use that to start breaking down the different components. So the first thing I'm going to do here is let's create a class that's called display. Okay, and we'll go ahead and create a constructor that's public. And we'll start putting some of this code in there. So I want to put these 5 lines here, there. Oops. So in Vim, if you want to copy a bunch of lines, right here we have line 23. I want to copy 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. Actually, I'm going to copy more than that. I'm going to go ahead and copy all the way down to 36. Okay. So we'll go ahead and copy all the way down to 36. So we'll do yank. What's that? 13 lines. So we'll yank 12 lines, and then the down arrow key. It says 13 lines yanked. We come up here to the line where we want to put it, and we do a capital P, and it pastes it. Okay. We're not going to use local variables in the constructor. We're going to make some member variables. Oops, display. We'll give them better names too. Let's do a int screen. We'll do a window. All right, so now instead of doing display pointer like this, we're going to do display, and then this will be screen with display, and this will be window. Just renaming all these so that the names are more easy to read. Some people will put, for their member variables, they'll put an underscore at the end of it. Since we're using Vim, and you don't get highlighting directly for member variables, it's kind of handy to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Not always a fan of adding this kind of stuff, but I think it's helpful when you are in a text-based editor like Vim, where you don't get the highlighting like you would in an IDE. Automatically color codes it. Although I'm not super familiar with the color codes in any IDE anyway, but they're there, and some people like them. So there. So we've renamed all that stuff. So now when we call our constructor for display, it's going to create the window. It's going to open the display, get the screen, create the window, and set the input all in one step. So I'm not going to delete this stuff yet because I don't know if this works, but I'm going to go ahead and comment it out. And yes, I know we could use a /* and do a */, but I want to be able to comment these lines out individually. Okay, and we'll go ahead and map the window even. YY, lowercase yy will yank, so like this. If I do YY like that, that will yank a single line. And then I can go paste it with capital P again. Oops. So that'll map my window. Do display and window like that. All right, so by the time we're done with our constructor, we have a window that's all ready to be, it's open essentially. Instead of checking for it to be null and then returning, what we're going to do instead is we're going to throw an exception, because that's what you should do with RAII, which means resource acquisition is initialization. So if you haven't heard of RAII, I'll have a video on that. But what it means is that everything that this class needs to do its job should be created during the constructor. And once we're done with the constructor, if not everything's up and running, then we need to throw an exception and get out and never construct the class, fail to construct the class. Then that way, anytime any of the later functions, the member functions of that class, try to run, they don't need to check if the display was created or if the window exists. They can just assume that everything's good. All the resources are available, because you would have never constructed the class if something failed in the first place. So what we're going to do is throw an exception right here. I'm going to throw a std runtime exception, runtime error, like that. Okay. Then our constructor will fail. The other thing, by default, this will create a copy constructor and a destructor. But we don't want the default one, because we need to close the window. So we're going to make our own. And we're going to call, guess what? Xclose display. So we'll go here and copy this line. To copy a single line again, it's YY. Come back up. And capital P to paste. Okay? And we got to change the name. It's display. And we can comment this out. Okay, now at this point, we should be able to create a display object. Now because my class name is going to have the same name as this, that's going to create a problem. So we need to rename this. Naming is hard. Let's call it game display. Okay. And we'll know it's ours. And the other thing we should probably do is create a namespace. For now, we'll just call it my game. All right. So down here we've got game display. We need to give it my game display. We'll just call it D. How about that? We don't want that. We just want it like that. Okay, that should create our window. Now in here we've got D's that we need. So we can't get that directly because the display that we're creating right here on line 19 is a private variable. I could expose that as a public variable, but that's an internal element of the game display, so I don't want to do that. What I want to do instead is, for now, we're just going to go ahead and return. We'll create a getter function that will return a display pointer. Okay, and all it's going to do is return a copy of the display pointer. Oops, display like that. Okay, then it can remain private, and we can still use it for now as we are working towards a more refactored program. So instead of D, we're going to do gd.getDisplay. And we'll do the same here, gd.getDisplay. I could store this in a variable like this. I could say, display pointer D equals gd.getDisplay. Right? And then use D everywhere. I'm choosing not to do that right now. All right, so that's all done, and then our destructor will be called automatically when game display goes out of scope at the close brace. Okay? All right, let's see if that worked. We made any mistakes? We made a mistake. New types may not be defined in a return type. Line 13. Need a semicolon after your class. Okay, runtime error is not a member of std, right? Because we need to include exception. What is this exception? Nope, let's look it up. I can't remember. Come on. Here it is. Std runtime error. Std accept. If you didn't see that, it's right here. It's defined in header, std accept. That's where I'm getting that. Okay. So we want std accept. It's one of those things that I add and then I never think about it again. All right, so there's our game. It still worked. We have arrow keys and escape gets us out. Okay, everything worked and we didn't have any messages. So now that that works and we've refactored it into a class, we can go ahead and delete the extra lines of code that we don't need. Well, that we've replaced, right? All right. So now our main function looks like this. We can further refactor this because if you look, what we have is get an event, handle an event, get an event, handle event. So what we really want to do is get an event, handle an event. So let's do that. All right. So for now, I'm going to add this here. We will let's just make a function called run. That's game display. I don't really want to call it run. Let me think about this. Okay, I think what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to create another class and we'll call it game. And then the game class will create a game display. So we'll create another class here called game. Don't forget your semicolon. Oops, I just paged down. Sorry about that. Okay, so here we are. Let me turn on the line numbers. Okay. We'll create a game. The other thing I want to do is I want to have a function that just says run, because why not? Simple, to the point. And what run is going to do is call some functions inside that are going to get a, we'll do a get event and handle event. Okay. It's pretty straightforward, I think. Okay, so in our game class, what we want to do is create a game display. GD. So we're going to go ahead. It's got no parameters, so we'll just use the default. It'll be default constructed, which means it's just going to call the default constructor here because there's only the default anyway. There's nothing to give it at this point. Maybe we'll give it width and height later, but right now we'll just use the default. That's good enough. So what we're going to do is in run, we're going to sit. Basically, this is going to be our main loop here. While not done, do all this stuff. So we need an event here. So we'll create an event object, event. All right, let's spell this out. Game display. There you go. In run, we're going to say, oh, we need a Boolean. Is running. We'll default that to true. Is running. That kind of changes our is stopped. How about that? Is running or is stop? I don't know. Let's do is running. There we go. Is running. So in run, we'll say while is running, sit in our loop, and call get event, and then call handle event. Right? And get event is going to say if x pending of game display get display, like we did down here on line 104, right? We're just copying that. If we have an event, then we're going to get it. Next event of game display get display. And we're going to put the event into the event object or the event struct that we've created in our class here, right? And we'll go ahead and print like we did before, event and the number. Oops, typo there. Okay, there's our get event. Okay, then our handle event is going to be, for now, it's just if the type equals, boy, we should just copy this, huh? All right, so 115 to line 128, that's 13 lines. So yank 12 down, get rid of that, and control P to, oops, I did D, which deletes a line, but it also puts the line that was deleted into the buffer. So the next one that I paste with capital P will be that line. So DD will delete it. And then when I pasted it, it's pasting what I deleted, not what I copied before. So I want to yank these lines here. So we yank 12 down again and paste it here. There's our lines. All right, spacing's kind of wonky, so let's fix that. All right. So we say not E, it's event underscore. Same thing here, event underscore. By the way, control arrows will move across words. Control arrow left, control arrow right, moves across the word. Event underscore. And all that. So again, at this point, we should be able to go ahead and use our /star this time. And should be able to say gd.run. Right? So run is going to, let's just take a look at this. We're going to call run. It's going to say while it's running, get an event, and then handle the event. When we get the event, we're going to ask if there's anything pending, then get that next event and print out what it is. Store it in event underscore, which is our member variable right here. And then we have handle event. That's our next thing. We're going to handle the event, which will check if it's a key press type. And if it is, print out what it is, and then do a switch statement on it. Up, down, right, up, right, down, and left. Spacebar and escape. Ah, this here needs to change. We're not using done for our main loop. We're using is running. So we're going to set is running to false. Is running will be set to false. Let's go ahead and put these on 2 lines. Okay. And then that should exit our game. All right. Let's see if that works. Uh-oh. Has no member run? Thought we added a member run. Game. Oh, GD has no member run. That's right. That is right. We're not going to create a game display. We're going to create a game. And instead of calling GD run, we have G run. Okay. Missed a... okay, so what's this? Line 151 expected a close brace at the end of the input. Let's look at that. Escape colon 151 will take me right to line 151. So we have a mismatched set of braces here, which probably is from something up here. Switch open close, if open close, void game event handle event open close. Seems like my namespace needs to be ended. I think I deleted that one. Let's look at it real quick. Okay, namespace open, my class begins and ends. This one opens and closes, this one opens and closes, that opens and closes. These, you can see it's highlighting them in Vim. The pairs, the matched pairs of braces. Come down here, handle event. Okay, yeah, so I just need one more for my namespace. All right. Try that again. Okay. Up. Oh, wow. Look at that. It looks like it is repeating that over and over and over again. Let's figure out what we did different. Everything still works. It just seems like it's printing out the messages a ton. Or maybe it's reading the messages a ton. Let's see what we did wrong here. Get event, handle event. Okay. Okay. So this here says if it's pending, we get the event and we handle it, but only if there's one that's pending. So let's change this. And we'll say if get event is true, then call handle event. Of course, there's always other ways of doing these things, but for now, that's what we'll do. So this now needs to return a Boolean. Okay, so we'll return true if there is a pending event, and we'll return false otherwise. So we need to change get event to a Boolean. Okay. Okay. Up, right, down, left, spacebar, and escape gets us out. Okay. Looks like we've successfully refactored that to have a game class and a game display class. So game is going to be in charge of handling the events that come from it, and display will be in charge of managing the actual display itself. Okay, now that we've got all that, we can go ahead and delete these lines. So 151, that's about 30 lines. So we're going to do 29 down. Oops, we want to delete it. So D is for delete, 29 down. Okay. Right. Now our main function is, realistically, it's 2 lines. Right? We create the game object and we run it. All right, let's make sure that still works. Up, right, down, left, and I'm hitting the key multiple times, by the way. Up, right, down, left, spacebar, other keys, and escape. Okay,